Hello, a very good day to all of you. Thanks a lot for attending this webinar on social key performance indicators for microinsurance. On behalf of ADA, BRS, Green Credit Agricole, Microfinance Foundation and GIZ, the leading partners of the Microinsurance Network's Performance Working Group, I welcome you to this 1 hour on social performance indicators and a webinar that is linked to the launch of the handbook on this topic that we published recently and you might have read before. So, a very good afternoon. Before starting, I will give you a short overview of the agenda of today, and I'm going to be very unpolite and start by introducing myself. As I will do the quick introduction. So I am Bertel de Beek, facilitator of the Microinsurance Network Performance Working Group and working at the Belgium Raiffeisen Foundation as the Microinsurance Coordinator. I will give you a bit of background of the Social Performance Indicators Initiative and then pass the microphone to Thérèse Sandmark, the Project Officer at the Crédit Agricole Microfinance Foundation from France, who will introduce you to the framework of social performance indicators, which is a nice composed overview of the social performance indicators for microinsurance. In the second half of the webinar, we will move south and we will first go to Ghana, where Efua Donker, Executive Director of Star Microinsurance, will share with some details on how Star Microinsurance is dealing with client protection and more precisely with complaints. FOA will share some of the insights and the procedures that they are using and lessons learned regarding the social performance indicators. And next we will go to Girish Babu from Care Hospitals in India. Girish will talk about inclusion, about how they make sure to reach poor people, how to make sure they reach enough of female insured in their program. And after all that, we have time for Q&A, so we can take your questions throughout the webinar and respond to them at the very end. So to give you some background on the Social Performance Indicators Initiative, it started all in 2006 when the Performance Working Group of the Microinsurance Network started working on financial performance indicators. At that time, social performance indicators and social performance per se was a hot topic in microfinance, and the microinsurance practitioners that shared the work around financial performance indicators pressed a lot to say we also need to look into social performance, because the business what we are doing, microinsurance, is not a for-profit business per se, in the sense that is it a profit maximization, but we do also want to reach social goals. And it's important that from the start we also are aware of these goals and are able to measure those. So it was a call that was made in 2006 and that was then answered a couple of years later in 2010 when the working group started to think about social performance indicators, not out of a blank page sheet, but based on the financial performance indicators that have already a social dimension, and also what we learned from our colleagues from microfinance. And out of those two sources, we generated a list of key questions that then were prioritized by a group of practitioners that we called together in Europe in that year, and that was thought through. And so we came to a list of smart social performance indicators to measure the key questions that were placed upon. That result of that workshop in 2010 was then further tested during a survey, phone interviews that we held with different practitioners from microinsurance throughout the world, and also some field trips or implementation exercises to see if the indicators really are discussing and touching the key issues, and if they also represent reality, if they make sense. And that led to a second workshop in 2012 when we had a validation of the updated social performance framework by a representative group of practitioners. So we called together 20-some practitioners from Asia, Latin America, and Africa to discuss what has been done before, the work that we had, and to update and validate it. And all of this was also presented at the Microinsurance Network conference that year to also get the buy-in and sharing these lessons learned with the larger microinsurance community. And this led to a new action this year, the publishing of a handbook of social performance indicators for microinsurance that gives us a material to share with you so that we can finally put these social performance indicators into practice. So one of the things that is important to start with also is to know why social performance indicators matter. So for doing so, I would like to give the microphone to Efua from Star Microinsurance in Ghana to answer this key question.
Thank you, Beth. For a microinsurance provider, our main goals is to provide valuable and product that meets the needs of our target group. Our target group being the informal sector. As you said, it's not just a matter of providing valuable products, it's also supposed to help us meet some social goals. It is important we use these social performance indicators to make sure that it helps us keep in track and make sure that we are meeting these goals. For example, we do have all these social performance, the complaint ratio, the claim ratio, which will help us to make sure that our claims are paid right on time. With competition coming into, these social performance indicators help us to be able to provide our clients with valuable products that always keeps us ahead of competition. Thank you.
Thanks, Efua, for this sharing of these ideas on how you view social performance indicators. And I think indeed that your ideas are shared also with the larger community. We have noticed this when we were doing this work on the social performance indicators and we were working with practitioners, that indeed a lot of organizations are very concerned about these issues and to be able to measure the social performance. And we will get some more insights and sharing of this later on when Efua and Garish will share with them some of their experiences that they are having with the social performance indicators in Ghana and in India. But before doing so, we will provide you some more insight in the framework of social performance to give you, let's say, the theoretical background of the tool. And I think that no one is better placed to introduce you this as Therese Sandmark, who is working at the Grameen Crédit Agricole Microfinance Foundation and is the author of the handbook on the social performance indicators. And Therese will introduce us in the social performance framework so that you get a good idea on how it is composed and how it works together.
Okay, hello everyone, and thank you, Bert. So I'm going to take you through the framework. So this handbook describes a framework that is designed to support microinsurance practitioners to monitor and improve their social performance. The social performance indicators, which are the main focus of this handbook, are closely linked to the financial performance indicators for microinsurance, and together they will provide a balanced view on the overall performance of the microinsurance operation. So they take both the financial and social dimension into account. And you will see that 5 of the indicators are actually marked with a star, and that means that they're also included in the financial KPIs, and that means that they can be interpreted from both the financial and the social perspective. So the intention of these indicators is to initiate discussions internally on product and process improvement, and for this purpose it's recommended that first practitioners define clearly for themselves their own goals and analyze the trends of these indicators over time. So what you need to keep in mind is that social performance monitoring means that you're comparing data over time as you analyze trends, and you need to combine the results from different indicators to increase your understanding of the performance for your product. So the interpretation of the indicators will also depend on the maturity of the product, on the type of product, and whether it's voluntary or mandatory. So let's look at the first column with the 4 dimensions: product value, client protection, inclusion, social performance management. So these will be followed by principal, guidelines, and last indicators as we walk through the framework. As microinsurance programs often involve many partners and different types of delivery models, the social performance indicators described in here primarily focus on the product and its purpose. The three first dimensions, product value, client protection, and inclusion, are therefore specific to the product itself. And the fourth and last dimension, social performance management, focuses on the institution delivering the product. And you will see the distinction that's made between product and institution level in the margin on the left side. So the next are the guidelines. So next are the principles first. And the principles, they are sort of code of conduct, and the principles are regarded as part of the management of a microinsurance program. And for product value, for example, the principle is the product provides the client with appropriate and effective risk coping mechanisms. So next are the guidelines. And the guidelines, they give you an indication on how to apply the principles. And they also propose practical ways of improving practices and operations. And continuing with the product value, the guidelines are client needs are assessed during the product stage, client feedback is measured to enable regular improvement, and improvements are designed to add value for clients. So last we have the indicators. And they are focused on outputs and give the indication of to the extent to which the principles and guidelines are being implemented. So we wanted to go beyond simple yes-no indicators to have these quantitative ratios that are applicable for the different type of microinsurance providers and products. We also wanted to have smart indicators, meaning that they are specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and timely. So this set of indicators is not exhaustive, but we consider it as the foundation for social performance analysis. And I mean, we could have come up with many indicators, but we decided that these 10 would give you a first good overall view of different aspects of your operations. So complementary sub-indicators can be useful depending on the type of institution and the type of product that you have, but they are not put forward here as key indicators, as they might not be applicable or relevant to all products or practitioners. But it's important to remember that all these indicators are interrelated, and you need to analyze them together in order to deepen your understanding of what's happening in the organization. So if we take an example of the incurred claims ratio, you might want to combine this ratio with the social investment ratio, because if you track it over a longer period of time, you might notice that that investments in education and information and communication and prevention activities that are included in the social investment ratio can decrease the amount of claims over a period of time. So those two ratios can be combined to give you an overall understanding. And sub-indicators that you might want to track for this one could be the frequency and the average amounts of the claims, to know whether you are paying many smaller claims to many clients, or larger claims to just a few clients. So that's the theoretical example. So now we can move on to more practical examples of implementation and use of these indicators.
Thanks a lot, Therese, for this nice overview. And I think it also shows how the social performance indicators are being configured and put together. So we have written a 50-page handbook to detail all of this, but basically this scheme explains it all. The indicators give you insight in whether or not, or to what extent the principle has been achieved, and the guidelines help you to give some codes of conduct on what to do and some tips on how to reach a good level of result on these indicators. So before we move to the South and we move to Africa, we would like to know what you think. So I will launch a poll with a question and some answers, and I would like to have a look at it and to answer the question so we can see what your ideas are. So the question is, do you plan to use the social performance indicators to monitor your microinsurance program or that of your partners if you would be a support organization? So please answer those questions. Yes, I'm only considering some of the indicators, or no. So click one of those three answers. Yes, I'm only considering some indicators, or no. We still have some people who haven't responded, so I'll give a couple of more seconds. All right, so we'll close the poll and I will share the results with you. So to the question, do you plan on using the indicators? Almost 60% of you indeed plans on using the indicators. 20% more is considering to use some of them. And we have 20% that at this stage is still convinced or thinks not to use the indicator. So maybe we want to redo this question at the end to see if whatever we have shared and explained might change your minds. Having said this, it's now time to move to Ghana, where Efua Donker from Star Microinsurance will give us some insights on how her company deals with client protection and more precisely with complaints. So Efua is the Executive Director of Star Microinsurance. It's an Accra-based microinsurance specialist that was incorporated in 2008 as an agency to collaborate with the Star Assurance Company and Star Life Assurance Company. And they have set up a quite sophisticated system on dealing with complaints and on having a procedure around on how to manage those and how to be able to improve their program. So Efua, I give you the microphone to share a bit of insights of and a short introduction to Star, and then on how you deal with complaints within your company.
Thank you. Star Microinsurance was set up in 2008 as an independent microinsurance intermediary for Star Life and Star Assurance. Star Life is the fourth largest life insurance company in Ghana, and Star Assurance is the second largest general insurance company in Ghana. Our division mainly deals in microinsurance, so all our products is supposed to be for the lower income or the informal sector. We have products ranging from the voluntary funeral policy to the child plan to micro health plan. We also do credit life with some of the savings and loan banks. Presently, we have a collaboration with the Ghana Association of Microfinance Companies that consists of about 583 companies. We work with the Ghana Susu company, which also has over 1,500 Susu collectors to sell our policy through the informal sector, because they have a reach to about 2 million of our informal sector. We also are collaborating with the Ghana Post to distribute our funeral policy there. So we are strictly a microinsurance provider. Okay. I'm going to talk about client protection in the form of complaint ratio. We have the complaint ratio is the number of complaints we've received throughout the year over the number of clientele base we have. As of last year, 2012, our complaint ratio was 0.09%, and for the first quarter of this year is 0.03%. We have 3 systems in collecting these things. The first method we started with was people calling into our call center with a toll-free number of 200 to lodge their complaint. What we noticed was our clients didn't want to do that, or were refusing to do it, because most of them, being market women and traders, didn't want to leave their goods to walk to a call center and call this number. So what we did was give our staff a complaint form and send them into the marketplaces to get in touch with our clients and then record their clients. We also got our staff to do this through the ambassadorial method, where each of our staff in-house in the back office is assigned one market, and that becomes his market to make sure that he collects all the complaints that come out of that. So these are the 3 methods that we use. After collecting these methods, we put it onto the record format complaint sheet, and then we lodge it in-house. The insights we gained from tracking these complaints were, we realized that clients needed continuous education. Clients also refused to leave their offices, their businesses, to visit our office premises. So in terms of claim payments, we always used to have to take it to them rather than they coming to the office to collect their claims. Clients would also want to surrender because of negative reputation of other insurance companies. So you enter into a marketplace and your client will just want to surrender your policy, mainly because another insurance company had failed to pay a claim that belonged to another friend of hers. Then we also realized that the clients didn't want to have check in terms of claim payments. They would rather prefer us giving it to them in cash. Their main reason was being that most of these payments were done in cash, and so they were expecting that we pay them back in cash rather than in check. So these were some of the complaints we have been able to track down so far. The actions we took as a micro was to organize teamwork days for our clients, where we send all our agents into one market, and then we use this opportunity to educate the client in that particular segment of the market to explain our policies better. Doing that would help us to be able to correct some of the negative impressions they have of the policy. We also made sure that the toll-free number is always available for our clients and it's always accessible for them. We also assist our clients in opening accounts with some of our sister banks like Unibank and UniCredit. In that way, they are more acceptable to collect our checks than not helping them at all. So these are some of the actions we have taken into place. Okay. Now, as I said before, all these complaints are recorded and they are logged into our internally developed system in-house. which automatically gives us all these ratios. Now, the good thing about these complaint ratios is it helps us always keep up. We are always able to enhance our policies. We are able to provide our clients with the best service possible. When we go out and we collect these complaints, we come out with clients asking us to add certain benefits to our policy that we do not have, and it helps us to develop these policies. In terms of claim payments, we are able to keep in track with our claim ratio and make sure that claims are paid on time, which is also very important for our clients, because if they do not pay these claims on time, it means that we do not provide for their needs and their needs are not met. The ratios are very important to us, and we record them monthly and we report them quarterly at every board meeting. And so we have our standard ratios that we have to meet, and we make sure that every quarter we work hard to meet these ratios. Thank you.
Right, Fuya, thanks a lot for this insight gained and sharing these ideas on how you deal with complaints. And I like a lot the way you have been using different methods and been trying to go beyond the having organized a call center, but then really reach out to your clients to make sure that you get to hear them and that you get to know what they're thinking about your scheme. If you have any questions boiling up, please post them in the Q&A, so in the chat, so that we can use them in the Q&A later on during this webinar. So before moving continents, I would like to know again a bit of your ideas and how you think about this, and especially I'm interested to learn how you already monitoring complaints in your organization. So this is the next poll. Question is, are you already monitoring complaints? Yes, no, but Afra convinced me to start doing so straight after the webinar. Very well, thanks for your votes. So the results look as following. Already 70% of you are monitoring complaints. That's really amazing. 8% isn't doing so, and then 23% says that they will start doing that in the near future, which is very encouraging indeed. So thanks for these answers. This helps us as well getting a good idea on where we all are in microinsurance. One of the nice things of organizing a webinar is that you can easily move places without having to move actually from your seat. And so we're now traveling all the way from India, to India from Ghana, where Girish Babu Bommakanti is waiting for us. And Girish is the Chief Care of Rural Health Mission at the Care Hospitals in India. And Care Foundation is obviously a very well-known non-profit organization. The microinsurance component is based in Hyderabad in India, but the foundation works in the areas of education, research, training, telemedicine, and rural health programs in India and Africa. And Girish will share with us some of the insights on the inclusion dimension of the social performance indicators. So, which is about trying to reach out to people who are less privileged. And there are a couple of ratios that give us some more insights into that. Coverage ratio, the number of insured under the poverty line, number of female insured, the number of insured above retirement age, and the social investment ratio. And Girish will talk us about 3 of the indicators that are being used at care hospitals. Girish, please go ahead.
Thank you, Bert. Hi, everyone. Before I get into these crucial indicators on inclusion factors, I just wanted to give you a brief about our program so you can understand the context to relate to. The program what we are doing in India is a rural health a primary care microinsurance program covering primary care from the healthcare coverage. This product is delivered through a network of health workers based at the village, and they actually enroll and also service the people. The product costs around $6 and it covers around $54 as the sum assured. And the program, the insurance, is a continuous process of enrollment during the whole year, and it's a voluntary product. So this is in brief, and this program has been running for the last 4 years in our district called Yavatmal of Maharashtra, India. So going to the one of the indicators. Yes, the one of the things which the most common in terms of demographics which we actually look into is the male-woman ratio normally in the program. The critical indicator which we look is the percentage of female insured or women insured in the program. By definition per se, it's the percentage of people who are enrolled into the program, but how it is significant to the program overall. Now, in the program, what we have done, I'm just holding on for the slide. Yes. Now, if you see in the program, in the last 2 years, we are like consistently managing the around 49% in the women enrolled. And even though if you see there's a small dip in the number of people actually enrolled in the last 2 years, but the percentage remains same. And around 50% is a good indicator for looking at the program what we are doing today, because it's a family-based product and taking care of all the people as a family, as a unit. So it gives me insights basically in the program that the product what we are doing, it uniformly reaches across the population in the target segment. It gives right access to the people, especially women, and it also gives very significant understanding that the product is affordable. And if you see in the year 2, after, even though there's no decline in the ratio of women enrolled, the renewal ratio is 35% in the product, and but the coverage as such remains uniform. So that's a significant output which is valuable in terms of access and the percentage of females actually enrolled in the program. So that gives us a good insight that we are able to give a real good access to the work.
There's obviously a small typo in the slides, which is my mistake, so my apologies. So the totals are 100%, 49% female, and then instead of 95, it should be 51% as male insured for the program.
Thanks, Bert. We will go to the next indicator, which is the insured below the poverty line. Now, this is a straight away, again, understanding is how many people below the poverty line enrolled into the program. Now, the definition of poverty line changes from country to country and region to region, but in our program, we take the government proposed indicator of below poverty line is they issue the basic identity cards and provisions made to that. So at the time of the enrollment, we make a record of all those people who have hold this card and take this program, and also we have a photocopy of those ID cards to validate as part of insurance. So in that way, we are able to see in the last 2 years that around 95% of our policy holders who have enrolled the population are below the poverty line, which clearly indicates that you are able to reach to the most social impact making program of microinsurance, reaching our target segment of low income population. So clearly demonstrates that in the second year also there's a decrease by 1% because of our renewal ratio has gone down. But again, it shows a reach and access really has an impact, and our ability to do a really good product of reaching to 95% of the below poverty line, again doing a social impact inclusive of those factors, and also the delivery mechanisms through the health worker who is a woman trying to reach these people. It clearly indicates that the impact to those people who are accessing this below the poverty line So once they access the product, obviously you know the claims and other things. So our target objective having making a social impact using the microinsurance is very well understood using this indicator. I'll take you through to the next indicator, which is I think one of the most crucial indicators across the social performance indicators is on the social investment ratio. This ratio needs to be interpreted not from the co-marketing sales of the microinsurance program, but looking at your complementary programs or services which add value to the overall program in the long term rather than just looking at the short term, and also taking the overall feedback, how it helps the program for the long term. So in our program, we do the social investments in the areas of doing screening camps for the people. Then we do eye camps, blood group camps, so on and so forth. And what is the outcome of doing this program is that we have seen a significant change in the people's how they actually seek health care. Before a program, there used to be like the per capita of claims was around 118%. Now it has gone to 143%. It gives you a very straight indicator. It's not because of just insurance access has reached, but also is that people are much more aware of other complementary programs which are happening. And it also is an indicator is that once the more the health-seeking behavior changes, obviously the access goes, but in the long term, the cost of the people falling sick gets reduced, which has come out very clearly in the research program which we have done with Harvard School of Public Health and Monash University, that by doing a complementary preventive care programs has reduced the hospitalization by half a day and reduces the hospital expenditures around $10 per person, which is a crucial a social investment impact. It also gives you a very clear indication of social investment is that whether you need to increase your expenditure or not, because as you see it's around 16% here. So it gives me indicate if my program is doing well and is also having an impact, should I increase my expenditure in the coming year? Should I do it more? Are we really making an impact? So it gives you whether an idea in terms of intent to increase, value addition to the program, and as a program all the way, is it integrated well enough for the people to receive? So I mean, all this gives you an interpretation from social investment ratio. So if you see overall in these three indicators, when we see it's basically it's making a social impact, how we are able to see in terms of measuring percentage in below the poverty line, the woman, as well as the social investment and the overall impact of inclusion, which makes a very important case in a microinsurance where most of the objective is to make an impact. So these are the three programs which we are doing, and obviously as results show, it's making a lot of impact.
Thanks a lot, Girish. I think this is making a lot of sense and is very valuable lessons, not only about how to capture and monitor these indicators, but also what you can do with it. And I think that you share with us some of very interesting insights that can lead to some interesting debate in a minute. So thanks for this insight. And before going to the Q&A and having to hear from you and what your questions are to the panelists or some of your ideas, here's a final question. So a third poll, and the question is, how would you compare social to financial performance indicators? Would you consider social performance indicators as more important, as equally important, or maybe as less important? So this is the last poll question before we go to the Q&A. Okay, and I'm going to close the poll and then show you what your thoughts are. So we do feel overall that the social performance indicator are as important as the financial performance indicator. 80% of you thinks that's the case. Another 13 thinks it's even more important, and 6% would regard it as less important. So I think these are some interesting results that we can also be further comment on during the Q&A. So maybe one understanding question first for FOA. This is coming from Lou Nobisi, who asked, what is the premium level for the funeral insurance in at Star Microinsurance? So the question to FOA is what is the premium level for the funeral insurance in Star Microinsurance? FOA, I think you muted yourself because I can't hear you.
Can you hear me now, Bert?
Yes, I do.
Okay. The premium for funeral per individual will be between $1.5 to approximately $3. That's it.
Right.
The cover in total would be approximately, I'm trying to change it from cedis to dollars, so I'm trying to do a little calculation, would be about $5,000. Yes, thank you.
Okay, thanks for this. This makes it a bit clearer. So another question to the panelist is, and maybe I think Therese can give a first answer. Although there are no key social performance indicators for the institutional level, so for the social performance management, can you provide some examples of what indicators may be if an institution were inserted in capture this dimension? And that's a question coming from Susanna Grossman-Christ. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. So it's about how to monitor the social performance at the institutional level of an organization.
Okay, well, thank you for the question. And in fact, you note as well that there are no indicators for the social performance management. At first, we had one actually. We had the social investment ratio that we had put in this category. But during the second workshop, it was decided that it would fit. It fitted better under inclusion. So we decided to leave the guidelines there for the institutions who would want to improve on that dimension. So for the moment, we don't propose any concrete ratios. We stick to the guidelines and allow that for the institution to keep an internal discussion going around that. So there are no indicators at the moment.
Right. So I think if I can complete that, and it also is reflecting to one of the questions we received when people registered for the webinar. They could also add some questions there. Is the difference between the social performance indicators in microinsurance and microfinance, where indeed you do have quite some indicators on the institutional level. And I think that we can be proud in microinsurance that we were able to go a step beyond indicators, and we can really talk about ratios. So as Therese explained while showing the framework, the indicators that we have retained as key performance indicators with a group of practitioners are really output-oriented indicators. So ratios that measure the difference it makes from for the clients, for the insured of a microinsurance organization. While on the institutional level, we can still talk about indicators if you want. In microfinance, there are a lot of yes-no questions that are regarded as indicators, but this type of process indicators and open questions or yes-no questions were not retained at this level. But nevertheless, if you will read through the handbook, you will see that that there's quite some guidelines that can still be used on how to deal with this. And it also very closely linked to the social performance the universal standards for social performance management for microfinance. So there is a good link to that. I don't know if Afua or Girish have another comment on this question.
Hello, Beth.
Yes, Afua, please go ahead.
Could you kindly repeat the question again?
So the question is on how to monitor, how to measure the social performance on the institutional level. So on the social performance management, we do have a set of guidelines and a principle, but there's no output indicators attached to that.
Well, what we do is we try to measure it. Hello?
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay. What we do on an institutional level, number one, we do have an inbuilt system which helps us to be able to measure all these ratios. We try to take in a lot of these ratios. In terms of the ratio I spoke about, we record these things on the sheet, and so when we do that, we put it into the system, and on our level we use that to monitor and make sure that institutionally we are meeting the needs of the people. And for us, the social performance indicator is more to help us as a microinsurance provider meet the needs of our people and create value for them. So when you take renewal ratio, we do that every month, and then we go into our system. Those who have gone lapsed, we go back to our telemarketing department, they call them, and out of even those calls, we can end up getting some complaints that we can address at the end of the day. So on our institutional level, these indicators are used to help us control our everyday operations. And in terms of claim payments, they are also very important, because one of our main ratios is to make sure that 98% of our claims are paid within 1 to 8 days. And so these ratios help us make sure that we are always on track and paying claims on time. The classical example is the fire that occurred in our market on the 5th of May in Katamanto. I'm very sure when you go on the net, you see a lot of noise made on that. It happened on the 5th of May, and within 8 days, we were able to make enough claim payments. This is very important. We paid over $250,000, and our claim ratio has really increased to about 98.5%, which is exactly what we want in terms of institutional monitoring of our social performance. The back relationship is our clients have created value. Now our partners such as the Advanced Savings and Loan, the Opportunity International are getting more clients, and the ripple effect is our premiums are going to be increased, and so value has been created for our clients, and people are happy. Thank you.
Right, thanks a lot, Efua. So I have a next question coming from Marie Gias to the two practitioners on the panel, so Girish and Efua, and I'll start with Girish. The question is, what is your opinion on the key determinants for an organization to have good social performance indicators? So what are the key components, the key determinants that are important? Is it ownership, mission, values, professionalism, or are you even experiencing some other key determinants that really make a difference in standing out as a social performance champion?
Yes, thanks, Bert. To reply to this question, I could just relate some of the things what we are doing at our organization. One, yes, the program itself, when we are looking at the board level, where we have the board and the chairman, where we are looking at, the institution itself is looking at all these social impact-based activities. And it follows in through in terms of spirit and directions and documents in terms of mission, vision, and values. But how do you see at the end of the day whether are we reaching those social impacts and is one is that are you reaching your right target segment? So as I said, we are measuring are we reaching our women as we wanted. Second, are we measuring the cost of reaching this access? Are you doing the cost what people can afford? So you measure your cost indicators where people can afford. And are you reaching more people? Are you reaching less as you wanted? So that is also a good indicator. Then the overall thing, does it make a difference in the community lives? So when you go and discuss with them, you see a lot of change happening at the village levels or the community levels based on your programs, what you're doing. Now, this could be captured qualitatively rather more quantitatively, which we do. And then we have our own annual audit indicators where all this goes into the audit reports and it gets published in the organization. And at the same time, all these things also go as part of your fundraising activities as the social impact measures. So overall, as an organization, it's an integrated process to look at. And also is that it's not necessary it needs to be a vision and mission-based documents. I think the measurable indicators such as this could be looked into and look more holistically as an organization.
Thanks, Girish. It would be very interesting to ask the same questions to AFWA because the difference between your organizations that the CARE is obviously has an NGO background, while at STAR you're a spin-off, let's say it that way, from a commercial insurance company. So it would also be interesting to learn from you, AFWA, what you would see as the key determinant factors for having a good social performance and a good social performance indicators. I think you're muted yourself again, Afua.
Hello. For me, I think what will be very important for us to be able to determine whether our organization has good social performance indicator would be through new business acquisition and also through measuring our CSR to make sure that we meet the needs of our clients. Also, when it comes to ownership, I think it will also help us to do that when we do have good social performance indicators. Client retention is also very important. If we are able to retain a lot of our clients, it shows that we are meeting their needs and our products are creating values for them. Also, for us in STAR, the reason why we find microinsurance very important is because we are able to transfer our clients from microinsurance into the mainstream insurance. For example, we do have some microfinance institutions that have grown and now become more traditional than micro. And because we are able to meet the social indicator, they are happy and we are able to transfer them into our STAR Life, which is the main insurance group. And then the most important one also is high referrals. When our claims are being paid on time, we are able to respond to the complaints. Our clients end up referring us. So most of the businesses I have got is through referrals from one company to the other. So thank you. These are some of the things that would indicate that you're having good social performance indicators. Thank you.
Thanks again, Afua. So we are running to the end of the webinar. We'll take 2 more questions before we will wrap up. And there's one question from Luc Nubisi who asked, do you think that an indicator should be included to measure the level of impact of the microinsurance in terms of CSR? And I think that to answer that question, so if there would be an indicator needed to measure the level of impact on the microinsurance in terms of CSR, that this could be actually already dealt with the social with the social investment ratio that Girish presented, which is how much of extra does the microinsurer undertake to not only deal with risks that happen and so to pay out insurance, but also to risk prevention and to invest in prevention. So this could, I think, answer the question on CSR. Another key question that was posted by Domingo Quintas is for Therese. So what would be the difference, how you consider the difference between life and non-life products when you look at the social performance indicators? Therese, maybe you want to give some ideas on that.
Yes, thank you for the question. I mean, all the indicators are adapted to all types of products. So you can use all these indicators for both life and non-life products. They will vary a lot. I mean, depending on the product type. For the moment, there are no benchmarks that are available for any sectors. And we don't propose that at the moment in the handbook because it's very new so far. So there are no benchmarks that are available. But we do encourage practitioners to seek up peers that are either in the same country or in using the same product type and share the data to see what kind of ratios are normal for their product type in their region. So that's where we are at the moment for comparing between products.
All right, thanks a lot. Also, in respect to the difference between life and non-life, I can add that while working on these social performance indicators, we indeed intended to get together with a group of microinsurance practitioners from different regions, but also representing different institutional backgrounds, very commercial, to mutuals, not-for-profit, and also in different product ranges. So the set of indicators that were retained are regarded as valuable for all of the different types of insurance. What doesn't mean that, and that's what Therese is also saying, it doesn't change in terms of interpretation. Comparing life and non-life can be as apple and oranges, so it can be very different indeed, but the measures, the ratios that are proposed would need to match the different types of situations and products. So we got a lot more questions for which we thank you a lot, but I will take the last question and for Therese again, and that's to answer and to give some ideas on the correlation with the social performance indicators for microinsurance and the microfinance social performance. So where do they link and how is the one coming out of the other?
Okay, so our starting point for this framework was that microinsurance is a distinct sector from the microfinance. So we could not take all the work that has been done in the microfinance sector and just transfer it over to microinsurance. We had to develop something from scratch. But of course we wanted to find synergies with what has already been done. So you will see that the social performance management dimension, the guidelines are very much inspired, and they're based on the microfinance universal standards for social performance management. So, so we found that those were quite compatible with the microinsurance sector. The guidelines for the client protection have been inspired by the SMART campaign, who developed the SMART campaign was primarily in microfinance, but they developed some guidelines for client protections in microinsurance, and these are also very much inspired from microfinance, but adapted in some sense to fit the microinsurance sector.
All right, thanks again, Therese. So with this, I think we can wrap up the webinar. Please don't hesitate to post any more questions later on. You can always email them to info@microfact.org. and that's also the place where you can learn more about the social performance indicators. We have an upcoming event on June the 20th in Frankfurt, which is a workshop on financial and social performance indicators for funders. It's a one-day training, and you can download a handbook on social performance indicators from that same website. We will also, if technology doesn't fail on us, try to post the webinar online so that you can watch or share it later on. So before closing the session, I would like to thank all of the attendees for their interest and time of sitting through this and your interesting questions. And I also would like to thank the panelists, Efua, Girish, Therese, and also Matthew Genazini from the Microinsurance Network, who has been dealing a lot with the questions in the chat and so on. So all of you, a big thanks for attending and for the preparation and time for sharing your experiences and insights in the social performance indicators. So please do stay in touch, go and have a look on the website, and hope to meet you soon at one of our upcoming events. Bye.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you. Thank you. Bye.